Eun qomel pahot lux lot osis lux tnakos shel konam qequante ane pots chene mountain sail hail 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 qequante ane pots chene mountain.
Welcome to Podcast IRC, conversations with Indigenous scholars to advance understandings and gain new knowledge, hosted by the Indigenous Research Center at Salish Kootenai College.
Qequante ane pots chene mountain sail hail 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 yeah.
All right, so that was Ellen Big Sam. She was singing what you call the Sin Ka Ka'a. And the Sin Ka Ka'a was there was a large number of these types of songs, and they were sung during the beginning or the preparation of a battle or a big hunting party. And I guess before there was a lot of other dances they would perform, maybe a war dance of some sort. But this was kind of the last I guess the last kind of not performance, but the last kind of songs they would sing before the warriors would leave or the hunters would leave. But they would all gather together. They would take a hide, maybe a robe, old buffalo robe, and they'd start going from teepee to teepee, hitting on this robe and singing these different sin kaka'a, they call them, these different songs. And if somebody wanted to join the party, the guy would come out and start singing along with them. And next thing you know, as they go before each of the teepees, they're really calling for people to come and join the party, the hunting or war party. And the group would grow larger and larger. And I guess in more recent times, they used to use the canvas instead of the robes. So this dance got named the canvas dance by the anthropologists who come and witness some of these things. But in the old times, it was a hide. So they'd form these parties during this time while they're singing these Sin Ka Ka'a songs, and then before the singers had reached the end of all the teepees, by that time the ones who were going to go off to war or battle or onto their hunting parties, they would sneak off before the end of this little singing endeavor was over. So in this particular song, there was a lot of I guess deeds narrated or battles narrated during these songs. And in this particular song, she's saying what's happening. She's saying that I'm driving my horse, like I'm whipping my horse, like really getting it going, because if I don't, something's going to break me. Something's going to kind of defeat me in that way. So she's kind of narrating something maybe that had happened in the past. But I thought this was kind of an appropriate song in a way because a lot of Native people, we have to make a small sacrifice, or maybe it's a large sacrifice, but we have to leave our homes. We have to go off to these academic institutions to gain these degrees or these additional tools of knowledge that might help our communities. So in the same way, I was envisioning kind of our younger people, they're trying to decide what to do at the end of their childhood or their teen years, and the way to send them off could have been similar to this, sending them off to do the battle in sometimes these academic institutions. So with our guest today, I know that you've sacrificed a great deal to be away from your homelands to complete your degree. You've gone off quite a ways, I think, even all the way to the other side of the country. And just kind of curious, I guess, after you maybe can provide us just a brief introduction, but let us know how that journey was for you and how you feel that sacrifice has helped you to, I guess, endeavor in a way to help your people today.
Yeah, so hello everyone. My name is JoRee LaFrance. My Apsáalooke name is Iichiinmaaáatchilash, which means fortunate with horses. I'm 24 years old. I come from the Greasy Mouth clan, and I'm a child of the Iichiinmaaáatchilash clan. I was born and raised on the Crow Reservation, located in southeastern Montana. I have a twin sister, and I come from a family of about 4 other siblings. And I have a niece and nephew. And I am a 7th generation descendant from Chief Pretty Eagle. I grew up in the Mighty Few district, even though my mother's family is from the Black Lodge district. I decided to move across the country to attend undergrad at Dartmouth College in Hanover, New Hampshire. I'm not sure why I wanted to get as far away as I possibly could for my higher education, but I did. I actually had the dream of going to school on the East Coast when I was in middle school. Worked really hard to make it happen, and so had a very good time at Dartmouth. I double majored in Earth Sciences and Native American Studies. After that, I ended up taking a year off and moved back home when I finished on the East Coast, and I worked for the Crow Environmental Health Steering Committee. And just an amazing group of people who have been doing grassroots work, specifically trying to combat water contamination, specifically home wells, private wells on our reservation. And so very grateful for them. They took me under their wing and exposed me to a lot more of water contamination issues that occurs on our reservation. And so through that year working with them, I was also applying to graduate school, and I knew that the University of Arizona was pretty big on water issues, especially being here in the Southwest, but also working with tribes and doing very good work in partnering with tribes or working with Indigenous students. And so I was drawn to that. And so I ended up applying to U of A and other schools, chose U of A, and I am working under the guidance of Dr. John Schrover and Dr. Carlotta Chief, who are both in the Department of Environmental Sciences. So now I'm about to start my 3rd year of my PhD. I'm in an accelerated program, so I went straight into a PhD program. It's a 5-year program. Secured fellowships, so I'm fully funded. Super grateful for that. I have 2 grants that are currently funding my pilot study research to get me going on really trying to figure out the concrete direction of where my actual dissertation research is going. And so I have 1 more semester left of coursework, and I will take my qualifying exams in the spring and then do my dissertation work and hopefully defend in May 2023. So that's kind of where I am. Been away from home for quite a while. Been in school for a really long time, ever since I was 5 years old. My mom always says that to my siblings. She's like, no, you have to go to school. Your sister's been in school since she's been 5. So, and she's still in school.
You got no excuse.
Exactly. I feel like I've been in school forever, but glad to see the light at the end of the tunnel, and I'm almost there.
That's pretty good. That's probably pretty unique experience right there to stick to it, to be young, and to be at the end of the doctorate. I went to school with some folks like that. They didn't party too much. They didn't slack off, and go get in trouble or whatever. They just went continuously, and by the time they were in their doctorate, they were pretty young still. They just stuck right to the catalog. Checked off the boxes, took all the classes. Boy, that's congratulations, good job. That's
Thank
a
you.
tough one.
It's been a
Yeah,
struggle.
yeah, it's not. I mean, it sounds easy when you hear it, but yeah, it's not. I'm sure it's not. So I guess the kind of question that I wanted to kind of ask you about that was, how does that time away from your homelands and really understanding about your own cultural pursuits in your country, how did that shape maybe a unique way for you to approach the research that you might be doing or that you have done now?
Yeah, so my doctoral research is specifically working on the Little Bighorn River. And the Little Bighorn River is one of our staples of existence, I would say, for Apsáalooke people. We have three main river systems or watersheds that we rely on. And I've lived along the Little Bighorn River, so I relied on the Little Bighorn River watershed for basically my whole life. And our Crow people, we rely on these different watersheds. And we also have non-natives who live on our reservation who share those watersheds as well. And
Yeah.
so I've always um, I've always known the river. I don't think I can ever remember not knowing the river was there. And
Yeah.
so I've always known that we feed the river when the cotton falls. And we do all of these things before we even go into the river. But I also know that we use the river for ceremonial purposes. We use the river for sweat lodges. All of these things we use the river for. But I had this conception that it was the purest water because I
Yeah.
lived along it, and so we went swimming in the river. We used it for almost everything, and so I I didn't realize until working with the steering committee as well that there's all of these different sources of contamination that are going into the river. We may not
Yeah.
see it, but they're present and they're there. And so the Little Bighorn River is, although it's the main river that I would say that fully belongs to Crow people right now, just because of the way it's set up, our reservation, and the way the river is. It starts in the Bighorn Mountains and it ends and meets the Bighorn River at the end of our reservation. And so that river,
Yeah.
it's smaller than the Bighorn River, and that comes from the Wind River Mountains in Wyoming. And so we share
Yeah.
that river with Wind River, with the Shoshone and Arapaho people, but also all those
Yeah.
people who use that river along the way. But the Little
Yeah.
Bighorn River is a little different. It flows 11 miles straight from the Bighorns onto our reservation, and then it only is on the reservation. And so it's used by both tribal and non-tribal members. But
Yeah.
that river, it truly is like in the lands of our people that we still inhabit. And so
Yeah.
I just I mean, I didn't know this at the time, being younger, growing up along this, but it was learning more, becoming more aware, working with the steering committee, that I started to learn these things, but also look at how people still use the river, but we know that there's these sources of contamination. And so
Yeah.
I wanted to take a deeper look at that, especially with my doctoral work. The steering committee have done work in private wells. The Bighorn River is a world-renowned river, so there's so much research done on that river. And I always feel like I'm leaving out Pryor Creek. So a shout out to Selena. I would love to work on Pryor Creek someday. But I mean, I grew up along the Little Bighorn River, and it's provided for my people for many, many generations, and it still does. And we need to do a better job of taking care of it. And so I wanted to take a deeper look at what's happening in that river, but also bringing in the science, the hydrology, the story, bring all of that together, and really figure out what's happening in this river so we can do a better job of taking care of it, protecting it for our future generations.
Yeah. Yeah, that's pretty important. when we grow up, we get so used to things just existing, and we don't. And what the unfortunate part of that is, in a way, the public school system, or the school that we go into as younger people, sometimes it doesn't really highlight those local features that would really reel us in, and draw our curiosity to those. So we get to study, the Nile River, or the what is the one that goes through Europe that's pretty popular, everybody talks about, and we don't talk about our own streams in our own backyard.
Of the River Thames?
Yeah.
The River Thames. I could be. I don't know. I just Googled it just a second ago. No, I'm just kidding. I don't know. Are we, you talk about the river that flows, that caught on fire, that, spawned the whole Clean Water Act, or that was part of that, passing of the Clean Water Act. But man, we don't pay attention to what local people are accustomed to seeing day in and day out. And we talked about this a little bit in some detail in past episodes, but how we can really engage in the future of research for Native people, to formulate an Indigenous research methodology. And it seems to be kind of centering around this idea that we need to create these experts in research that are cultural, or knowledgeable of culture, but of landscape too, and start creating our own understanding and ways of teaching that. And I hate to use the word curriculum, but that's the educational term. Create curriculum that centers around the local place. Right, Aaron? Curriculum. What's the other word that you like to hear often?
Pedagogy.
Pedagogy. Yeah. The pedagogy
no.
of yeah.
It's
the
like
rubric
if I hear
of
resilience
understanding
one more time. If I hear
Resilience.
That's my favorite
one more
word.
time.
Resilience.
Oh,
Yeah. Gotta
so
try to work
trendy
that
right
in.
now.
Yeah. It's got to appear on every page of your dissertation at least once.
It's like in the powwow world, when you hear the word old style, just cringe.
Oh,
It's like, get out of here. Anyway, go ahead.
Yeah. Yeah, so I don't know if anybody else, my other fellow colleagues here, have a question or something that they're curious about. Otherwise, I'll keep going, man, and I don't want to hear myself talk so
I have
much.
a question.
Let's hear it. Yeah,
A burning
hear it.
question for JoRee. Since we
Oh gosh.
we were
Okay,
burning.
ready.
yeah,
Let's put it out.
ready.
Let's put it out.
So we were very, very fortunate to work together on an exhibit in Chicago, and we all contributed a piece of writing to a book. They were calling the catalog, but it's a book. I mean, it's a pretty remarkable piece of work.
Nope.
There it is,
Oh,
right there.
I did have it.
You got to put your head
It's a
there, right
catalog?
there. Look, she had it on the ready.
It's
We
a ca-
we
I'm by my
talked, we
bookshelf.
talked before this, and I said, "You put that book right by
Get
it."
it.
Yeah. Turn it to the part where I wrote something.
Yeah.
though.
Um,
Yeah.
and,
Turn it to my
and I-
page.
many like respected Crow people contributed to the book. My sister, who's a remarkable writer, contributed to the book. Myself, but I in my opinion, the person who stole the show with their writing was JoRee. Her piece of writing was,
Was it poetic?
man, it was all
Or-
it was all of it. It was academic, it was scientific, but it did have a sense of like a human was writing it. You know what I mean? Like you-
non-regional diction.
yeah, like, not. It didn't have it didn't have a Boston accent. It didn't have
no bias,
it
parent
was-
bias present.
Yeah, and I was pretty proud of what I wrote. I was like, man, I kind of knocked this out. And I was super late on it. But
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, I did it. But
The
whatever.
day after
And then,
the deadline.
A mutual friend said, I read JoRee's. I got to read a sneak peek, and it's pretty awesome. So I was like,
Yeah.
oh, I have competition.
No, I didn't feel like you were. You felt
I was
like
like-
you were in competition.
I was like, oh. Foiled
That's
again.
that's pretty bold of you.
Foiled
Nobody can
again.
beat this. Nobody can beat my writing.
No one can beat. No, I didn't say that.
My
So when I
fine
read it, though, I
paragraphs.
was like, man, this is cool. So my question to JoRee is,
Okay.
did writing come natural to you, or did you have to, especially when you're writing? Like for me, writing isn't natural for me. I have a hard time with it. I came from the Crow public school system with a little bit of time in the prior public school system, which, well, let's not go there. No.
Whatever.
Hey now.
It
I'm
sounds
a
like
PhD.
there's this thing against Prior.
I didn't say nothing about
know.
St. Charles. I didn't say nothing about
First
St. Charles.
we gotta mention Prior Creek, which seems to be a lesser creek.
Thank you,
than
JoRee.
the
Well, in the
other
Crow
creeks.
language,
No.
it's not a creek. In the Crow language, Prior Creek is not a creek. It's a river.
It
So JoRee's just being biased because she lives by the Little Bighorn
Wait
River.
now. Hold on.
Hey, I didn't know
What's
that.
the difference? What's the difference in the language between a river and a creek then?
Ajah is a river and Ashgad is a creek.
What's the difference between the two?
Much like English, it's one means river and one means little river.
Well, okay, there you go. Okay. Well, no, it doesn't mean that in English because river is
No,
Spanish,
that's what he's
isn't
saying, though.
Well,
it's in the description, right?
The prior
Yeah,
Arrow
but-
Creek River is Alute Ajah. It just means
Yeah.
Arrow River.
it? Okay.
It doesn't
But
say Arrow Creek.
well, I mean, in English,
Otherwise,
you
it would
don't
say Ashgad.
you can't distinguish between size between river and creek from
It's
the
not
language
that
alone.
that's not what they're distinguishing, though, is the size. It's the description of it.
It's just the description.
Yeah.
We're not saying
Well, I
it's a
want to know
creek.
what the description is. What's the description?
Arrow River.
You guys are attacking me. I feel
No,
attacked
you're attacking.
because I want to get some clarity. And I get
Oh,
attacked.
crap. Here we go. You want to talk about Kerdam? Is that what you want to do?
It's SKQ. Damn.
Yeah.
Okay.
You know dang well when you're talking to your family, you call it Kerdam. You know
It's just
darn well.
You're just jealous.
Well, we have a dam too. Do you want our dams to fight?
Let's put them head to head. See what happens.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My
There's
question is
hydrology
about your
joke.
writing.
Didn't
Your
get it.
writing is good.
Okay.
I've read a lot of great pieces of writing. Yours was an exceptionally good piece because you were able to incorporate a whole lot of Crow knowledge in a very, very short amount of time, which a lot of us were kind of asked to do that in these pieces that we wrote. But yours was like jam packed. So my question is, how'd you do it?
Well, I remember when we met back in April 2019, when kind of the cohort came together and we were all given the amount of writing, or I guess the word count.
Our letters?
And
Are you talking about our letters?
Yeah. Well, for like the pieces of writing, we were given a word limit. And so I was really surprised. I don't know. I just have to give a lot of like gratefulness to Nina, because she really believes in me. Nina Sanders, who was the co-curator of the Apsáalooke Women and Warriors exhibit. And so I think if it had not been for her confidence in me, I don't think I would have wrote this as easily as I was able to. Because I was really nervous, going into Chicago with this like pretty amazing team of Crow people, artists, scholars, knowledge holders, and just to be in that room with people who were doing really great work. And so I was really intimidated because I was one of the younger ones. But I was also super surprised when Nina gave me a 3,000 word limit, and gave everyone else, but you, Aaron, she gave you 3,000 words, but gave everyone else 1,000 words. And I was
I don't know what you didn't have to add that part.
sorry.
I think I only wrote like 2,200 words. So-
Yeah, he should have got the 1,000 word.
Sorry, I did not mean to do that. But anyway, so
I had to pay him back the balance. No, I'm just
Pay him back
kidding.
500 words.
Yeah, I got to give him back. It's not like
50 cents
rollover
a word.
minutes.
No.
It's not like
They don't roll over.
Rollover.
And so anyways, when I was given that word limit, I was actually like really, really surprised. But after I left Chicago and had to have our draft done in September, I honestly, I did not start writing until like end of August. I would try to write. I had my document like set up back in May, and I tried to figure out how I wanted to do it. But I just, for some reason, I couldn't do it. But I think it was actually like after Crow Fair, when I came back down to Arizona and I started school. It was like a week after I started school. I just like dedicated like a whole Sunday to just like sit down and write. Because I kept getting emails from the Neubauer. They're like, okay, send it to us, give it to us. And I was like, oh my gosh, I haven't even started. So I dedicated this whole day. But I knew I had an idea, kind of like a storyline that I wanted to do. But it was hard for me to write. But I think it wasn't until after like Crow Fair that I was like kind of grounded or like brought back to where I needed to be. And I was like able to like go again. Crow Fair always does that for me because I'm away at school and then I come back home and I'm like with everyone. And so I think it was good to be with everyone and back in our homelands. And so it really helped me a lot. And I titled the writing, I actually didn't title it until after I wrote it, but it's called The Land That Raised Us. But I had included this other piece called Letter to My People, which I had put that at the end of the writing. And Nina had asked me to write on land and water because that's my research and a lot of the work that I do. And that's a big task. I was super intimidated by that because there's a lot of people who know a lot more than I do. And so I just went with it and I started writing, but I wanted to start it out. Like I wanted to make sure I was telling that story, but also including like this valuable knowledge that people needed to know to understand the story. But I wanted to make it a piece of writing that was educational or that would be counted as like a scholarly piece of writing. So I did use citations, but I cited, I tried to cite people who worked in our communities, like Dr. Tim McCleary. I've cited some of Aaron's work, and then some of the dissertation work from our other Apsáalooke scholars. So I wanted to be as resourceful to Apsáalooke people as possible. And so
basically what you're telling us is you went to Crow, you were inspired. I'm sure Cammy wants to jump in on this at some point because she teaches writing. Mm-hmm. And
she's a literary genius.
She's really a wordsmith, if you will. But the reason I brought this
Smith up is gender neutral. So come up with a different name.
She's the Van Gogh of language.
Again,
he was crazy. So thank you.
I didn't say Picasso.
Yeah,
say Picasso. She's
a word Sally. A word Sally.
A word. Why? What's the deal? I don't understand where we're going with this.
Just keep going. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I'm just okay. Go. I'm sorry. I'm done. You're all right.
The reason I brought this up is because I would like to hope that some of your academic writing would reflect what you produced in the catalog, and I would like to know, and maybe Cammy, I can jump in here because someone who teaches writing in the tribal college, is there anything that we can do in academics to promote that kind of writing for the sciences, for the humanities? It just seemed to be a more grounded writing, but also, and I'm not trying to take away anything that other people wrote. It's just that JoRee's our guest today. So, and her writing was good, but I was pretty impressed with everybody's writing. The amount of information that was in her document was a lot. Like there was a lot of information in it, but it still wasn't like overwhelming and it wasn't cluttered. So I was thinking, man, it's impressive that someone of your age, JoRee, can do that, because I still can't do that. But it was never taught to me either. So Camia, maybe you can shed some light on, is that something people teach or foster, or I don't know.
Yes, I mean, I am really interested in this because like there seem to be a lot of beliefs people have about writing, right? And not just about what good writing is, but what you need in order to do it. And so on the one hand, it's like some people are just good at it. It's like an innate thing. And other people are like, it's a skill that can be acquired. You can learn it like anything else. And I mean, I get it that those ideas are going to influence it. But I guess what I'm interested in is kind of some basic questions, because you were talking about the story that you wanted to tell, and that there was some information that was required to understand it. And so it sounds like you had this thing that you wanted to say. And so I'm interested in kind of these ideas about like, well, who were you interested in saying it to? And how did you want them to receive it? And like, I mean, were you thinking about, this being in kind of the academic world, or were you thinking that like, there's somebody I want to read this and it's not, so I'm wondering who you felt like you were writing to, who you really felt needed to hear your message. And if,
oh, sorry. Yeah. So I think when we first convened to talk about the book or the catalog for the exhibit, we really wanted it to be a scholarly piece. And I think the overarching goal for the catalog was to basically create a contemporary piece of writing written by Apsáalooke scholars that future Apsáalooke scholars can use to cite or refer to. So that's why I really wanted to make it kind of an academic piece of writing, but still keep that raw storyline in it. So I used my sources when I needed to, because I wanted to make sure that one day, if one of our youth decides to write a paper and they pick up this book and they choose this piece of writing that I wrote, that they would be able to go and cite that. And so I think that was the main goal that I took from when we convened. So that's kind of how I picked the audience for the larger piece, which is The Land That Raised Us. But I did feel the need to talk specifically and directly at Crow people. So that's why I included letter to my people. Mm-hmm. And so I don't say like you, I say we throughout that whole thing. And so I kind of did a little bit of both. One piece of writing is trying to do that academic style type writing to make sure that it can be cited and used as a source. But I also wanted to speak directly to my people, to have them open this book and have a piece of writing that's speaking directly to them, even if they don't think my other piece of writing speaks directly to them. It's just speaking about us, or however they choose to reflect or interpret that. I just wanted at least one piece of writing to speak directly at them and to them.
I mean, do you think that when you write, like, it sounds like you're consciously thinking about who, your tribe. So do you think that when you're somehow like representing them, you write differently? than you would if you were somehow like, another PhD candidate at the University of Arizona?
I wouldn't say, I guess in terms of like vocabulary in certain language, especially with academic and intellectual pieces of writing, I definitely have to change that style a little bit. And so, yeah, I would say a little bit of the language is different than the letter that I write in the catalog. But I still talk about much of the same values or themes and stories that's in the larger piece, The Land That Raised Us. So it's interconnected, but the language in the bigger piece, The Land That Raised Us, is different to fall along the lines of the language that academia or these scholar pieces of writing would necessarily have. Yeah.
I mean, that's something that I come across a lot, and people sort of push back at this idea that they've got to adopt a different style. And like, was that something that bothered you? I mean, how did you negotiate that?
Yeah, I think it does. I mean, even in a lot of my writings in my courses, I would prefer to write in the style where I'm speaking to my people. But I do a lot of both of those types of writing, mostly scholarly, academic type research papers is what I do most of right now. But I feel like the way, especially relating to my research, I definitely would like to search for a different way to communicate my research and to disseminate my data. I would like to stray away from the old academia path, antiquated, whatever we have set up. I'd like to either like do a film or I don't know, something along those lines. I've always wanted to go against the status quo or what we're supposed to be doing, or find a better way, because I always, if I can't explain what I'm doing to my own people, to my family, to my friends, my cousins, then like, what am I doing? Like, what is the purpose of this if I can't just simply explain it to them? And so I'm not doing this research for me just to like do it for fun and just get a PhD. Like, no, I have a purpose in this research. And if I can't communicate it to my people, then it's purposeless for me. And so I'm working on that. I've applied to different scholarships and fellowships that work on science communication, because I really wanted to become good at that, and make sure that we understand what's happening, because what good is it going to do if I'm the only one that can understand it? So I definitely am working on that. And so I'm still in the learning process with all of this. My writing, it's still growing. It's evolving. It's definitely evolved since I started undergrad, my freshman year at Dartmouth. I look at some of my writings and I'm like, whoa, like what was I even trying to say?
I still do
and
that.
So, when I look at this piece in the catalog, I'm really, really proud of this piece. And my writing has come a long ways, and it's taken so much work. Honestly, I probably could have so many books written if I just compiled all the papers and assignments I've done. I've done a lot of writing, so I've had a lot of practice, and it took a lot of work, and I'm really proud of where it has come, but also where it may go.
Yeah.
Would you consider yourself a writer, or do you consider yourself a writer?
I would say so. I don't only write for science.
Do you write limericks?
Like my data. Do I write what?
He said limericks.
Yeah, do you write
Come
limericks?
on.
Do you write limericks?
Come on.
I'm not that old. Just kidding. I'm not sure what that is.
Aaron's compiling an anthology of limericks.
I have been for quite some time, and looking for publishers if anyone's listening. No.
Hey, let's listen to this next song. How about that? And we'll we'll continue this because this is an interesting one. We've talked about this with a couple guests we've had about, and I think it's becoming an emerging part of this methodological approach is how we communicate what Native or Indigenous people do to make it really work in our communities. I think that's really, really important. So let's listen to this. I think Aaron's going to provide us with the explanation. Yes, Aaron.
I can.
No, you have to.
Well, we'll see what song you play.
What's the one you sang?
I jokes. Yeah, yes, I will.
All right, let's do it then. Okay, here we go.
He went up above the rock, and then he started to sing his song, his creation song, and then he said, then he sang, "Hey, no, yo, hey, no, yo, hey, no, yo, hey, no, hey, no, yo, hey, no, hey, no." And then he immediately blew in the mud, and it scattered all over. And because there was very little mud, our land, we have different sizes of land on the sea.
This is pretty interesting to me because in some versions of the Crow creation story, there's a song mentioned, and and in the Hidatsa version of the creation story, which is similar to the Crow version. But growing up, you would hear the creation story, and the reality is most Crow youth don't hear the whole creation story. This is kind of a lie we tell ourselves. Now we hear a small part, which is this part about the ducks going into the water, but the narrative itself is really long. But in there, in some of the versions, the creator, who is called Iichiinmaaáatchilash, he'll sing a song. He sings a song, and then he creates humans. But you never hear the song, and I've only heard made mention of it from several, just a couple different storytellers, and then the Hidatsas. So when I asked Grant about it, on several occasions, he said, "Oh yeah, there is a song," but never really could track him down until we were in a hotel room in Chicago, which sounds like a mob story. But actually, one time, you and I, Shandine, when we were at Indiana University at the Archive of Traditional Music, I found a version of that song being sung by Bull Snake in 1908. So that was kind of pretty cool. So it kind of, I was like, man, there really is a song.
Did they match up well, or was it the style change?
I would say they matched, but the reason why I was hesitant to it, because Grant himself is a completely different type of singer than somebody in 1908. As you know, by listening to those old recordings, at first glance, they're going to be like different, right? You're like, oh, that's different. But as you listen to it, you're like, oh, okay. The tempo is different. The tone is different. Pitch is different.
Yeah.
I think to a trained ear,
clearly
say,
the same.
They're the same song. Yeah. So it was pretty cool because I was like, man, this is neat. And there's many Crow ceremonies that reflect this idea of singing a song while the medicine is being made. They'll say, while we're making medicine, we'll sing this song. So, and unfortunately, most Crow people, 95% of the Crow people living today, when you hear the Crow creation story, you don't hear it in the song. So I was like, well, we'll play it on this. So our Scandinavian audience can hear the song. And as you know, our audience in Albania,
we got quite the international following.
I'm still upset that one download in Canada. We got to get our First Nations people involved.
Yeah, we got to get them on board.
Yeah, I just don't understand.
Maybe we got to use First Nations more.
Treaty 6, hashtag Treaty 6.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's the song. There you go.
Okay. What you got something for us though after that? Yeah. Okay. All right.
Wait, you told me to describe the song. I'm describing the song.
Well, I had a little more expectation. That's cool though.
What was the expectation? It was sung in a 4/4 timing.
You're good. at 139 beats per minute
Yeah.
tempo
The
with
meter,
a standard
meter.
pentatonic scale with a minor
Every
fifth
good
and a second
girl
bar.
does fine. What do you want? What do you want from me?
Oh, I thought you were gonna come up with something like a question of some sort after that, like it was related to what we're talking to.
Do any of you
I could
sing
do
while
it.
you
No,
write?
okay, hold on. So I'm interested in this because I'm wondering, like, what you think of the removal of the song. Like, do you think that was maybe influenced by like an expectation? Like, all right, this is the piece of it that.
It was influenced by the
Okay.
church. I'm gonna say it.
By the church, you said.
Church. Well, it has to be because, okay, at first glance, you're like, oh, maybe you guys don't know the song. They don't know whatever. What it is that
Yeah.
Crows believe, like many tribal people, when you sing, you pray twice. I say that a song is twice
Yeah.
as potent as a prayer. So the notion of praying during creation is vastly different than praying after the completion of something. Now, this philosophy didn't exist prior to the church. So I've heard a number of people say Crow people never prayed for the food when they would serve it. They prayed for it while they made it. So that's a different idea, right? It's a different kind of thing. But the church came in and the influence is like after. You do it after. You made your plate. Some Crows would say, well, the damage is done. If it's healthy or not healthy for you, it's already made. You know? So they would say you make you while you're creating, you pray for it.
Yeah.
And so and the same thing has affected the way we smudge, I guess. That's a weird word, smudge, but so we'll take cedar, bare root, sage, whatever, sweetgrass, we'll light it. And people always say prayers up, right? And you'll pray
Prayers up.
and you'll pray or whatever, you know, whatever.
That's what you say on Facebook.
Facebook, prayers up.
Yeah.
Hashtag
prayers. Or
prayers
just
up.
prayer. Or just prayers.
Just prayers.
Do you really pray
prayers
when you type that? Or do you do it after? Or have you already done it? Anyway, go ahead.
Well, I guess that's the point. So what I was told is when you pick the when you pick I'm trying to get back on track here.
Okay, all right, I'm sorry. Okay.
I'm in the weeds.
Yeah.
When you pick the whatever it is you're going to use for a smudge, that's when you pray for it. So you make a wish for that thing, whatever that is, the sage, the sweetgrass, and you'll say, when this is used, good fortune will come to wherever, whoever, or whatever, you know. So that's different than saying, let's light a smudge and then we'll pray. Well, you can just pray. That's what my grandma used to say. Well, just pray. Like, you know, like you don't need to do all that. Just pray. There's a reason for ceremony.
Yeah.
Ceremony is the reenactment of something, or it's it is a contract between the creator and us by saying, when you do this, then this will happen, right? So the idea of removing the song from the creation story is just as impactful as the church changing the name for God from Iichiinmaaáatchilash to Agbaraktia. That's for a spiritual community that has a powerful impact on it, right? It's the idea of you pray during creation, not after it. And I think that's a powerful thing when you think about it. But that's my opinion. Yeah. I'm not an expert on anything. And
come on.
Okay.
Don't do this. Don't disclaim.
Yeah, no,
okay.
Sorry.
Go ahead, Camia.
I'm just focused, right? Really, really focused on the whole writing because this is my thing. So when I go too far, just like cut me off.
No.
No. So I wonder about like the writing you do and how much of that, like, and everybody, like when you are writing, do you have like this really, really clear intention and like you have this purpose for it and this is what you want it to do? Or are you just like, somebody told me to, instructor told me to, I have to do this to meet some qualification to get published or to, it serves that kind of like credentialed kind of a thing. So like when you talk about all the writing you've done since you started college, everybody has the stack of papers. How many, maybe this is my question, how many of those do you think actually mattered? And then do you think that you had some intention? I mean, I gotta say, like, do you feel that it mattered? Right? And then did you have that really clear intention and purpose as you were doing that? Or do you think that it kind of just happened as a result of you were doing a lot of writing?
I think, okay, so there's many different types of writing that we do in college, right? And so I think as far as like assignments and research papers that were assigned in our courses, I really tried to be intentful in picking research topics that would either get me more knowledge on something that will help me farther down the line to attain a goal, or I do a paper something related to my people or the land we come from. So I was always trying to relate it to me, I guess. And I've noticed, and I think this reminds me of like an internship I did in Chicago the summer before I came to the U of A. I had to do an internship for one of my fellowships in order to receive the fellowship. And so I was at the Fermi National Accelerator Lab outside of Chicago. And even when I interned at the Department of Energy in DC, my work was involving tribes, or it was specifically I was fortunate that I could work with my tribe directly somehow. And so I was working with tribes or my people. But when I was in Chicago, I wasn't working with one, I was the only native there. But I wasn't working on a project that was impacting native people. So I found that internship was extremely hard to do. Even just writing the report for it, I ended up writing like a 10-page report on the topic I had to research for that summer. And it just seems so bland and just like going through the motions type writing. And it was hard for me to do that. And I mean, granted, it like gave me skills to write in the technical, the science sense that I do need for my research. Not saying that we shouldn't be doing that or I hate that, but it was a skill I was learning, but it was hard for me to do it. But I still learned that skill. Whereas all of my other pieces of writing, it involves tribal people or my people specifically. And I tried to be intentful in that way because it makes it easier to do. And as far as choosing papers that really actually matter, I'd probably say like 3, from like undergrad that are like, okay, maybe I could like edit this little bit and publish it, but who knows? But yeah, I mean, we all know, we've all done higher education. We have these different pieces of writing, but I've always tried to be intentful in what I do and try to find small ways to relate it back to me, because that's what keeps me going. Even if they're just baby steps, I'm still going forward.
That was a good question.
That's really good advice.
It made me think about it. I was like,
yeah. You need to write with more intent there, Aaron. Quit trying to write to impress and just write with some intent.
Just write
for the people. Just write for the people.
I
did a book report in, I think must have been 3rd grade, on Poland.
Yeah.
And I don't know why I did a book report on Poland,
Shout out to
but
Poland.
I always remembered it.
Downloads in Poland.
I think we do have some downloads in Poland.
Right, that Polish.
But yeah, and I don't know why it was so remarkable. I'd remember it. But I want to hear from Selena because she's right at the end, or has finished
She's in the dark.
all her
too.
final.
I know.
She's this shadowy figure.
I look like
She's finished.
Yeah.
You look like who?
I don't know. I look scary.
You look
right
like
now.
those ghosts on the movie Ghost.
Don't say that.
The movie
Remember,
Ghost.
it's like shadows. They're just like
I know that really poor CGI.
Yeah.
Before CGI, it was.
she's
Oh,
gonna
that's
turn a light
Sharpie
on.
and
It didn't help.
CGI'd yourself in the
Oh,
film. Okay, yeah. So Selena, you're right at the end of your writing process.
Yes.
What kind of advice or what kind of wisdom would you impart on someone who already seems like she's a very proficient writer
Oh,
or
yeah.
something that would
I know
speak
I'm
to,
intimidated to even try to give her any advice
oh,
because
come
I
on.
think
We've built her up. She's on a pedestal.
I know.
There's always
Are
something.
you a Ties the Bundle kid, Selena?
I am. Yep,
Oh,
I
so
am.
you can tear her
I'm
down.
Greasy Mouth and
Tear her
down.
down.
Yeah, that's your teasing
Yeah.
plan. Just
We
pour-
built her up. Now
Yeah.
your turn to tear her down.
no,
So yeah, I've read
I
your piece. I didn't think it
refuse.
was that good.
It's not only can you tear her down, it's your cultural obligation to do so.
Yeah. Let's start in. It's
I-
become a roast now.
I'm
The clan
It's a
way is
roast.
sacred and holy. Don't you desecrate it.
Yeah.
I claim my black
Let the
peace
roast-
right now. Then.
and all of a sudden you're
Ah,
becoming
ah,
I am not going to roast her. Honestly, I think when she was I wished I could. So I hope edit this out, Shawnee. But I wish I could have heard more about how you described writing for that project in Chicago, because I
yeah,
think
we missed it.
Yeah, sorry. So you might
It
have
was
said
good.
this.
I
but
heard
just-
it. It was good.
I know. I'm gonna have to go back and listen to our podcast. But
Yeah.
I that whole
Yeah, for once.
yeah.
Jokes.
Hey
Just
now.
kidding. No, I'm just teasing. Okay, go ahead.
I've only listened to one episode.
There's
so-
some downloads from Missoula, right? On this.
Yeah,
Are
there
you
is.
claiming the
Yeah,
Missoula downloads right now?
Yes.
she's claiming them all. That's what 36 of them.
Is there
or
any
something.
downloads from prior? That's what I want to know.
Yeah, there's one actually.
Oh,
Actually, I
probably
believe
my
it's
mom.
Edgar. It's closer
Oh.
to Edgar.
Oh, okay. All right, we're way off.
Okay, get back on. Let's get
Okay.
it back on here.
Writing, intention. Like just when you said I wrote that first part to my people, I just thought, yep, that's how I got through the whole first part of my proposal. Was I was writing it about not for, I mean, of course I had to follow academic requirements, but when I was writing it more for me and my learning process, and hoping, one day, because I was referencing Dr. Lanny Rilbert's dissertation all throughout, and without that I don't think I would have got through my own writing. And so I just when you said I wrote with intention and I was writing for my people, I was like, yep, and that's what we have to keep doing if we want to make this even worth it, right? Because it's kind of, well, I'm not a
Yeah.
writer, so that whole process was torture for me, and so I really had to find that motivation, and it was like, okay, eventually one day somebody like me is going to be searching for research on Apsáalooke people, and they'll come across my dissertation and it will help them.
Yeah.
And that was my motivation. It wasn't about getting into any kind of journal or anything like that. It was just about how can I give back to my community, because that's the only reason I'm here. That's the only reason I'm pushing myself forward. So I don't know. That's not really advice for you, but it's just definitely.
Well, I think it is
appreciated hearing that.
advice. I mean, what you're saying basically is use your own people as the barometer of your writing. And as long as you write, have that intention, I think your writing's always going to be good. Because I know for a fact the times that I didn't do that and I just wrote for something, like had to write a piece of a report or something. I mean, it was good. It was all right. Like it got by, but it didn't have what, like even my thesis is bad. Like when you read it, it's grammatically bad and it's arranged horribly, but I love it because of how I put it together. And I feel like when I gave it to my dad or my uncles and stuff, they read it. They didn't say like, "Well, you should have put I before E, except, they didn't say anything like that. They read it and they were like, it just sparked conversation. And I was like, yeah, that's kind of was the intent. And so I think what you're saying, Selena, without saying it is you just keep that as your, I don't know,
as your motivation,
Yeah.
as your writing
Yeah.
motivation.
It really confirms what it sounds like, what kind of motivates JoRee to continue to write and to write well, it sounds like. And
Well, JoRee, maybe
I
you
think
can
that's
share the
pretty
PDF
important.
with everybody. I don't know if are we allowed to do that?
Yeah, I can.
Yeah, we can put the link. We can put the link
actually, I
with
don't
the. Oh,
No,
right.
I think
we can put the link to the catalog on the show notes.
Yeah, we
and
should
people
do.
can
We should do
purchase
because
it.
all the support, all the
Yeah.
proceeds, 100% go to Little Bighorn College, which is a tribal college. So, we're all about supporting tribal institutions. So,
Yes.
Yeah, I think that'd be important.
Support local business.
Support Indian-owned businesses.
Boom.
Yeah, local,
Local, organic, cage-free
Local
Crow
yokel.
Indians.
Indigenous
Support
businesses.
range raised, cage-free Crow Indians.
Cage-free.
Cage-free.
Organic Crow Indians.
Yeah. Yeah. That's cool.
Well,
low carbon footprint,
gluten-free
Crow households,
gluten-free, non-blood diamond Crow Indians.
lactose free.
Oh my God.
# almond milk.
Wait, I have a topic that I wanted to talk about with you.
Thank you. Yes.
Oh yes. Okay.
Thank you.
Rescued us. Okay. Cool. I was building up something, but let's hear. I want to hear what you got. Yes.
So I guess, kind of just being like a growing scholar. I mean, we've all struggled with this probably of going away to school and then coming back to the res and not opportunity not being there, housing, whatever it may be, that prevents us from doing things. So that's one thing that I've been struggling with. But I think another thing too is even just as an environmental scientist, and trying to really promote sustainability. I mean, even this is a super complex conversation. We could go on and on. But I think for specifically my tribe, we do mine coal. And so I always think about this, of how I'm working to protect these water systems that we rely on, but we extract coal. And so I struggle with trying to promote renewable energy, solar, wind, and like talk about these kinds of newer technologies with older folks at home, like my Kaga or my grandpa. I try to talk to him about these things, and he actually put the first solar panel up on a house on our reservation ever. So that was cool. And I was like, yes, but that it was still not fully supported the way I would like it to be, or I would really like to push that forward, to start going into renewables and start to divest from fossil fuels. Because even with the coal that we use, it's sent off to other states and overseas. We do get royalties from that, and it provides a set of income or revenue for my tribe, but we're still destroying the land. And there's these old timers who made the decision to do this coal mine in the 70s, and most of them are still in tribal leadership, but yet you have these younger generations. There's a lot of younger Apsáalooke that I talk to who realize these things too, but we just don't know how to have these conversations or even go about them with people. So I don't know. I don't know if that's like completely off topic or whatever, but that's just been something that's been on my mind lately, is how do we maintain the fight within us to like speak about this with our people, even though we like keep getting backlash for this this piece of revenue that my tribe relies on so heavily, even though we have other avenues that we could take to get money, to be economically independent. And so that's just been something I've been thinking about for a while now, and even finishing up my PhD. And I want to go back home and I want to do these things. I may not do it through the tribe, but I could do it with working with Aaron or Nina or whoever. We have many other scholars and attorneys like Selena. We have people who are coming back who want to do these things. And how do we maintain that fight, like being in school, but going home and getting this backlash?
I think about that.
Sorry, that was a lot.
No, that was good.
Sorry.
I think we all think about that a lot on our own for our own communities. I know with me, it's hard because I've been in Missoula for so long, and so to talk about it, I almost kind of feel like a hypocrite. Although I do, I'm still connected to, my family and my people and all that. But it's a hard conversation to have, right? Regardless of our background, because people get so used to only knowing how to do something one way, right? And so that trying to bring new ideas into a system that already has all of these other issues that are challenging, and then to bring in a new idea, and it's just like almost too much, because sometimes I think we're so much of the time we're just in survival mode that it's hard to think outside the box or to bring in new ideas and have people learn a new way of seeing the income from, something that my husband and I had that conversation a lot about, all of the other natural resources that we have and why aren't we utilizing those. And again, I think you're right, because so many of the people who developed the I almost kind of feel like I'm talking about something I don't really know about right now, but the coal or that resource, like they're still around. And so they're proud of that, right? They're proud of that development, and it's hard to see things in a new light. But I think the way we do that is we just keep having the conversations, and maybe it's just me and you having that conversation, and then you talk to your auntie about it and I talk to my brother about it. We just keep having the conversations, and at some point we're going to get to a point. I know you and I have a age difference between us because I'm your mother's age, but at some point we'll get to that point where we will be in those decision-making positions. Thank you. Or somebody we're closely related to will be in those decision-making positions, and they'll consult with us. And it's just, it's, I don't know. I feel like we shouldn't stop having them, but it doesn't mean that it's going to change overnight, because the system that we're in has been in existence for so long. So
I think it's important too, Selena, to say to address that this problem of renewable energy, JoRee, is a statewide problem with reservations. I think even Flathead kind of gets this perception that it's got it figured out, but the truth is I don't see renewable. You know what I mean? Every reservation is struggling with the idea of sustainable energy and renewable energy and other forms of income outside of the norm, and it's a tough thing. So I don't have the question. I'm in the same boat as Selena. Sometimes I feel like a hypocrite when I talk about Crow matters, but I also feel like I have a stake in the game, because that's just as much my land as the next Crow. And I would never ever say that to somebody else, that they don't have a say in Crow land. And sometimes I've even heard the argument in other reservations where, like, well, that person's not cultural, so they shouldn't have a vote. It's like, wow, I mean, that's you get into weird ground there. Both my parents are Indian, you know what I mean? Like, it gets into like, so every res is going to have these arguments. But I think the biggest thing is the rules of the game change all the time for Indian people. So we learn a set of rules and we get it figured out, then it changes. And we're expected to make that change in the same level. So I think it's important as young scholars, because we're all pretty young yet in terms of learning, right? That we're learning on the outside, like we leave the res and we learn, then we come back. But we have to remember that we learned in a system that knows the rules. You know, that the culture that we were in, learning and getting our education, understands the rules. And in some instances, they're the people determining the rules. So now we go back to the reservation, and a lot of times we're naive and ignorant to the fact that they're playing on the 1.0 and we're on the 2.0, you know, and we can't expect them to make that jump with us. So we have to be very patient about how we speak about things and how we perceive, how we put ourselves out there, because you can come off sometimes as like, oh, this guy acts like he knows everything, you know, and I know I do that. And I'm working on it. But
you're doing it now. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, I'm doing it now.
No, you're not. I'm just kidding.
But I'm old enough now to realize that I do it. I'm aware of it. So what I do now is when I talk about things like, hey, even just like convenience stores in every district of the reservation, I think that should be a priority, that there should be groceries available in every district on the reservation. Now, if I say that, how I'm going to present that information to my relatives, to my peers, is important. Because if I come out and just say, you know what we ought to do, guys, and then be like, what do you mean we? You know, like you're over there, you know what I mean? So it's like you make them a part of the decision-making process. And that's not a trick. That's just being like, we're a group. Let's think of it as a group. What's sustainable? What's realistic? And I think a lot of times Native people, they shoot. Oh, there's just, I just thought of this. My grandmother, Joy Burdenground, used to say, reach for the stars and you'll catch the moon. And basically meaning she's like, you're going to fail at getting the stars. But that's the idea, is that sometimes you make things far enough out of reach that even if you fail, you still land on something great. And I think for us, we have to make our goals somewhat realistic, because a lot of Crows have this idea of like, we're going to get rich. And a lot of Native people have this, like, what can we do to get rich? Well, that's not the goal. That's never even been my goal ever in my life, has never been to be rich. It was just to be like, I just kind of want to have a good time in life and have as little stress as possible. So what's realistic? And I think that's what needs to be presented to Native people in our state, is what's realistic versus what's attainable, what's not attainable, but what's realistic. Let's start with this. Because even on Flathead, where things are fairly good economic, how many tribal businesses do I see? Not a lot. I've never went in. I don't even know how many tribal gas stations are there. How many tribal restaurants are there? You know what I mean? So we're still having issues here on Flathead that are age old as the ones in Crow and Northern Cheyenne and Fort Washakie. And so I think we should be realistic. I think that's the biggest thing, something attainable. Sorry.
For what?
I don't know.
I don't know. Yeah, you know, you know, a lot of times, you know, we feel like we're living in a place, but really when we think about it and we look at all these issues that you mentioned and everyone mentions, it feels like, you know, we're not really living, we're just kind of surviving, you know. And, you know, that's the kind of the way that I feel that with my education, completing my doctorate, was like, okay, I want to give these future students that I'm teaching an ability to live rather than just to survive. And to me, it started out with the values. Okay, how can I use the discipline of hydrology as a vehicle to teach young students to be honest and to be accountable for their work? That was really, I use that as the vehicle. So then they can start elevating from just going day to day, just making ends meet, to actually thriving. And then that hopefully would infect the community in their in whatever job they eventually had, you know, as a decision maker, hopefully. And then they would carry those traditional values to make the correct decisions, of course taking into account the reality of our situation. I think, like what Aaron was saying, we live in a reality it's not the romantic idea of going back to some old way. We just can't do that anymore. But we sure can reimagine a way that's like that, given our own reality. And that's kind of what I think when you ask that question. How do we promote this new way of living that's aligned with our values? But I'd be interested in Brenda. What is your take on that? I want to know what you think about what she said.
What she said about oh God, sorry, I was zoned out, guys. I agree with her. I think that she's really inspirational for her age and the things that she's accomplished so far. And I think that the audience that this particular podcast is targeting is those students that are still in college. And when you guys were discussing like what motivates her to write and what makes her a good writer, and she reflected back to herself and her community, that's really good information, because I feel like a lot of students write just to appease that particular project. They just do it to do it. And that's really kind of sucky, but a lot of people just wing it and they do it, and they're trying to get all of the citations correct and the formation and all of that stuff, because that's what a lot of places want you to focus on. And so when she said, I write for myself, I write for my people, that's pretty genuine, and then for it to be relevant to a specific field, to her degree, to her profession, that's a powerful combination. And so I really liked that. That was really inspirational for me, because I'm still going to school. I'm still trying to figure out what I want to do. And so that is going to stick with me. And so this conversation is really going to hold. And as for like renewable resources and that kind of issue, I feel like the change is happening. A lot of the old timers that are set in the fossil fuel generation and that destruction, I think that's slowly fading out. And I feel like the people that are coming up to these positions are more focused on the land, and taking care of it and loving our mother or whatever, and for people to, I just feel like, I don't know, you guys.
You're like, what do I feel like? I don't know.
I just feel like environmental science is a booming thing, and more people are becoming more aware of the issues, and of course there's always like tribal lands, on our reservation, and we're sovereign, and we have the ability and the capability to tend to it the way we want. Our flathead res, not so much, because we're just too many cultures and whatever. That's a whole different thing. So, but I feel like it's an upcoming thing, and people are really starting to be more aware of it. And I think that over time, it's going to become easier and easier and easier for people to stand up and say, hey, there's other options. So I don't know.
Yeah.
This upcoming generation's really going to make some moves, I feel like. And change is never easy. But as those positions change and other people with degrees come in, the mentality changes. And so it becomes easier, I feel like. So I don't know.
Change is tough. I don't think enough people give enough credence to like change is hard for anybody. Try taking your kid's iPad away and see what happens. I mean, change is tough. Change is tough. Yeah, but I think Brenda's right. I think there seems to be a shift though, because now it's a conversation where before it wasn't even a thing. People didn't even talk about it. People. People. Yeah. I even heard Crow people try to justify it in the creation story that we can do with the land as we please, and I'm like, it says nothing about coal mining. So
I know. I even hear people joke around, and I think that people that don't have higher education and are still kind of trying to figure that part out, they joke around about like browning in the wind and having wind panels. You know what I'm saying? And just things like that. So I think that people are thinking about it.
Yeah, because you're actually right. Because even the fact that it's in the humor is something, because it was never even a thing. People never even talked about it ever.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So it's happening. The change is happening. It's happening.
Sometimes in team roping, they say you got to slow down to be fast. And I think sometimes we want things to be quicker than they are, but you got to relax a little bit, like it's going to happen. It will happen. Cause we're going to completely use it all up. So there's at least that.
Settle down, Craig Cameron.
Oh, settle down. Settle down. Hey, he was at my house the other day.
I seen that. I remember one of his episodes. He's talking
Small town.
about
I seen that.
He's talking about. I don't know what he's talking about. Breaking out a new cult. You gotta slap him. You just slap him.
Well, it works.
I know. Yeah. You gotta slap him sometimes. You gotta know his boss.
You gotta slap him.
Yeah.
He's
so that's gonna be our approach.
Yes. Clarify that.
Are we? Yeah. Talking about horses. Yeah. We're talking about horses. Yeah. Not people. You don't slap people. That's wrong.
Oh my God, you guys.
Yeah.
We don't promote slapping of people.
We kind of took over the conversation, but that's all right. I mean, that was a good question. It's a valid question. And I think,
I almost think JoRee interviewed us just now.
She did.
She did.
Yeah. I feel like it's got reverse psychology. Yeah. We're gonna put her as the host, us as guests. Yeah. Pretty good. Well, I think what I'm interested in is having you back on as a guest again. Maybe after you start your research, maybe in a next year sometime, and just do a follow up, or maybe even sooner. I think you got some good things that the younger generation that's just kind of grinding through that undergrad, and nothing. I don't know what Brenda was saying about the citation. Nothing kills an undergraduate education or a paper you're writing like getting your citations nitpicked. And I see that where I teach, and it's just horrible.
It is. It's ridiculous.
What's the why? I mean, it's important to know that, but does it really? You really have to have 10 correctly cited citations. So I don't know.
Cammy, do we have to have 10?
You realize you're trying to get me in trouble.
It's important to know.
You're really in trouble.
I know, yeah.
How many
it's important
faculty do you think listen to our podcast?
So I'm not really going to be in trouble at all. That's what you're saying.
Nobody knows. That'd be funny.
I don't know. Yeah.
If we get a bunch of emails, I'll be like, okay, I stand corrected.
Yeah. You guys are going to have to take that podcast down.
But for our Polish audience, they would like to know.
They want to know about my book report on Poland. Yeah.
So I got a quick question though for JoRee. I know you probably want
to... quick question, then we'll wrap. Yes.
Go. Okay. Throughout your education, your academic, especially your undergrad and up, when was the first time? Because I know this happened. It happens to... when you're young and writing, you'll like write something and you'll be like, yeah. I want to know the first time you did that, and then it just got destroyed and you were like hurt by it. Like I want to know, because I can remember when I wrote something and I was like,
Me too.
And then they destroyed it and I was like, is this how it's gonna be?
It hurt deep. It's a deep hurt.
So when was that time?
I would have to say it was in retrospect, my writing wasn't very good back then, but then I thought it was the bomb. So when I submitted this paper, because this was probably like my 5th or 6th paper I had written in that class. It was my freshman writing class, and my writing wasn't very good. It was not, I know for a fact, but I worked really hard because I knew writing was going to be a huge part of literally everything that I do. And so it was probably that like 5th paper, and I submitted it to my professor, but we had a TA in the class too. And each student had to meet with the TA weekly. And I can't remember exactly what I wrote my paper on. I believe it was on a book, but I submitted it, and I had gotten a good grade. I think I got like a B or B plus on it, and I was just like super happy. But I went to my weekly meeting with my TA, and my TA shredded that paper apart. Like shredded it. Like we sat there in that meeting we had, and we went through every single sentence. And I was like, what? Like, I
Jeez.
didn't know that was possible, but okay, like, that's cool. So it was like, I left the meeting and my paper was just like, had all kinds of red marks all over it.
Like a
and
murder
then
scene.
I was like, okay. But like, the thing about it was I had already gotten the grade. So I was like, what am I supposed to do with these? Like, I already have the grade. So I was like, I already got a B plus. So I just kind of left those comments. I was like, okay, whatever. You do you, homie.
I could totally see like a freshman. I could see a freshman being like, well, I got a B, so what does he know? It's like, no, dude,
Yeah,
the
I
paper
was
was
like,
bad.
whatever.
The paper was bad. The teacher
So that was the first time I had a piece of writing really ripped up by someone. Definitely had more experiences, but not as bad.
Cool. Yeah, I think we've all had those. Yeah, pretty rugged feeling. Yeah, we have to communicate in such an odd way. You know, this English way is so foreign to a lot of people. You know, and when we try our best and get shot
outside
down,
of academics, who communicates through writing?
Yeah.
You know, it's not a thing people do other than prison inmates and pen pals. You know, like it's not a thing. It's not like it's.
Well, that's a significant population.
Grossly too high. And, more people are in prison today in the U.S. than the entire world. But that's a different
And
podcast.
Native Americans represent a significant proportion of that
high population.
So yeah.
Oh,
so be a little more
can't
sensitive.
make a joke around these people.
Yeah.
They're too trendy.
I know.
They know all the hashtags.
So I guess to kind of get us going on a wrap up here, you know, I'd like to hear what sort of advice you would have to any Native scholars out there that are struggling to finish their undergraduate, or maybe they're considering going to graduate school that's kind of away from their homelands, or maybe they're right at the end and they can see the end in sight and they're just having that burning desire to go home. What is some words of advice you would give to those struggling Native scholars out there that are just need that extra push?
Yeah. So my friend, she told me something. I deal a lot with imposter syndrome and intimidation, and I mean, I'm sure we all do in this academia world. And so I was super scared. I was trying to get a panic attack, and I was like freaking out because I had to do a presentation. And she told me it was on my research and some other topics that I had to do, but I was getting really scared because I was thinking, okay, I'm speaking in front of these scientists, like these people know so much, and
yeah.
So I was really, really intimidated and anxious. But she told me, she said, she was like, just speak. You already know what you want to do. She said, everything that you're learning in school, she was like, those are things that you can learn. She was like, you come from people and you come from a land where you have inherent teachings that we're not learning in books. And she's like, you have everything you need within you that people other than like Indigenous people aren't able to do. We can learn all their knowledge. We can open up a math book. We can learn these formulas. We could learn this chemistry. We could learn all of these things. But what we know as Indigenous people with the land that we come from, not everyone can do that. So we hold this inherent power and like knowledge within us that not everyone has. And so that really resonated with me and kind of brought me back and calmed me down, because she was right. Everything that I'm learning, that I was presenting on, these were things that I could read in a book and I could learn, but there was also aspects to things that the audience didn't know, but I knew and I was able to just speak on. And so I would encourage everyone, especially Native scholars, to do your best not to compare yourself to others. I do that a lot.
Yes.
Especially with other other scholars in my program. There's not many Indigenous scholars, but you're more than likely going to be one of the few. So don't compare yourself to others. This is your journey. As much as we try to compare and talk ourselves down, we can't do that. There's already a system set in place to bring us down, and we can't do that job for them. So be kind to yourself. Don't compare yourself to others, and just forgive yourself when you need it, and to just keep pushing forward.
Yes, thank
Excellent
you.
advice.
Yes.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Excellent. All right. Well, thank you again. We appreciate you taking the time, and we hope you have a chance to come back and visit us, hopefully in person next time.
Thank you for joining us on this episode. And to learn more, you can find us on Twitter and Instagram at IRCSKC. You can find us also on Facebook and YouTube by searching SKC Indigenous Research Center. You can also visit our website at irc.skc.edu. Don't forget to join us next time as we continue our discussions on Indigenous research, Indigenous research methodologies, and Indigenous worldviews.